Welcome to Fixation Station, the podcast where we talk about our obsessions, past, present, future. If you can figure out how that works, let me know. Today, our guest is the very funny New York comedian Kathryn Fabbroni.
It's me. That's me.
How are you today, Kathryn?
I'm good. I'm still waking up and having coffee because Saturday is my sleep-in day. How are you?
I'm having an interesting day. It started with me yelling at my mother.
Oh no.
Yeah, and it's sort of, I don't know why, I'm just angry, and my brain just locked on to being angry with her, but we're okay, I think. And
It's always weird when you've been living on your own and then you go home for a while, and I know you weren't planning on being there forever, so it makes sense.
yeah, I mean, I'm not living with them, but I'm seeing them much more
Right.
often. And yeah, I think there's just a lot of stuff going on and
Yeah.
a lot of uncertainty in the world. And
Okay.
we'll see if but I'm very happy to be talking to you
I'm happy to be talking to you.
about your hyperfixation, which is also one of my hyperfixations, Stardew Valley. And for people who don't know, Stardew Valley is a video game. I would call it a combo dating sim, farm sim, dungeon crawler.
It's like a farm RPG.
It's the only video game I play, but I play it a lot.
It's very easy to get sucked in, and I have realized in the last few weeks that I'm back in a hyperfixation where I'm shirking so many other things I could be working on in pursuit of a 100% perfect farm, which is not something I knew existed until I started watching Stardew Valley YouTube, which is also a thing that I'm a part of now. Thank you.
Yeah. I find with my ADHD YouTube videos, I don't know what it is. Uh I can't watch them. I will say I also whenever I see a beautiful farm decorated, I'm always super jealous, but then whenever
Right.
it comes time to focus on decorating my farm within Stardew, I'm just like, no. I
Right. I'm
gotta
like,
go.
why would I focus on this when I could do everything else in the game?
Right. I gotta kill some ghosts. I
I've
think
got to hunt down my love interest and give them whatever their favorite item is.
yes.
Sometimes
So
that item is very hard to come by, so you have to go to the depths of the mines to get it.
yes, because that is how there are romanceable characters in
Right.
Stardew Valley, and how do you get people to like you? You give them things, and if you give them
Can I
enough,
tell you, Arielle, okay, so my Stardew hyperfixation is born of Harvest Moon. Do you know what Harvest Moon is?
no, what is Harvest Moon? That
It
is
is
actually supposed to be the first question, usually on this
right.
podcast. How did you get into Stardew Valley?
That's okay. I love that it came up organically. I love
Yes.
that. I'm actually excited to tell you, farming RPG with the same dateable character style, same you go into town and there's little events that happen. It's very similar, but I discovered it on the PS2 in high school, and I was hyper fixated on that then, but I only had it for PS2, and then I moved on to the Wii was my next system.
Mhm.
And it didn't the ones on the Wii weren't as good, and good enough version of Harvest Moon that made me as excited as the first version I played. I can't
Okay.
remember the name of it. It was something about homecoming, back to the homeland or something.
Like a Spider-Man title.
Right. No Way Home is what I keep wanting to say. And then I'm like, no, that's a Spider-Man movie. But then someone recommended Stardew Valley to me, and it had just made an iOS app when I
Mhm.
had moved to New York, and I dived right in. It
Mhm.
People had been recommending Animal Crossing to me for years, and I was like, oh, I don't want to get a Switch. I don't want to. So I dived right into iOS, Stardew Valley, and it's changed my life. But anyways, the whole reason I brought this up is you were talking about giving gifts. The way you get a love interest in the game and make friends in the game is giving gifts to people. In
Mhm.
high school, the person who introduced me to Harvest Moon ended up being my boyfriend. But when we started talking to each other, being friends, the only interaction I had with him was he would come to my all girls school from his all boys school once a week for Italian class. I would bring him baked goods from my home. And I'd see him, we'd pass each other in the halls, and I'd be like, I brought you a cosmic brownie today. And then when we became friends, I realized he lived close to me. So like some days I'd like walk to his house and I'd bring like a little Tony's frozen pizza from my refrigerator. This is before I played any of these games. So like this is my love language.
You say that, you know, if somebody wants to bake me things, that would also be great. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So then you got so funny that you were like this, but you preceded the video games with like, oh, how you get people to like you is you give them things.
Right.
And sometimes it works.
It did work.
Yeah. I'll try that again. So I got involved with Stardew Valley because I had a friend who was playing it on the Switch, and I found out you could play it on Steam. I got so into it, the ASW keys on my keyboard came off.
Oh no.
Because I was pressing them too often.
You've got to change it up sometimes to give the other keys some.
I guess this might have been, I don't know, I can't remember the order it happened, but it was right around the time Brexit happened and right around the time Trump won the presidency. It was 2016, remember?
So you needed something to like comfort you.
Yeah. And then I kind of got over it. And then in 2020, I was like, oh, you can download it on your phone now. And then,
right.
So yeah, I do associate it with a thing that I play when I and the world are in crisis. I've never played cooperatively with anyone before. Have you?
I have. I don't know if I want to talk about it on the podcast. Can you imagine that we're living in a world where I'm like, the thing that I don't want to talk about is the co-op I have with someone?
Well, I want you to tell me off my...
I absolutely will. And at some point, if you have me back, maybe I'll talk about it.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think I can mention, like, it's a boy.
Yeah.
That I haven't told you about yet. So
yeah, no, I assume as long as it's not. I was gonna make a West Elm Caleb joke, but then
it's not a West Elm Caleb joke. But also, I'll go out with West Elm Caleb.
Oh yeah.
If you're listening, I am fascinated, and
I would also date West Elm Caleb
on a date. And it's fine if you ghost me because other people have ghosted me too. I've survived. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm doing a Twitter space later today, which listener that was like 2 weeks ago.
Listener, it went really well.
Listener, that was more than 2 weeks ago. This is future Arielle, and past Arielle was a little overambitious about how long it takes to edit a podcast. And while I have you here, I wanted to offer a little spoiler alert for pretty much everything in the game except for Ginger Island. And if you don't know what that means, if you don't play the game, I guess you need to decide if you want the game spoiled or not. You understand how a spoiler alert works. Okay, thanks, bye. So I think we want to talk about the romanceable characters first. So who are your favorites?
Okay, so that's an interesting question, Arielle. My favorites, because here's the thing. I've listened to interviews with Concerned Dave, and he talks about how some of them are just like archetypical characters, and other ones are based on people who he's known in life and like exaggerations on them, right? And you see that in the game, right? There's the emotionally unavailable alcoholic, which is my type. That's why I'm always drawn back to Shane. Because like Arielle, I think I can fix it.
The thing is that you kind of can, right? Like
it's okay. Here's the thing. Shane has a cutscene where he's like, I'm gonna go to therapy. I think I have to stop drinking. But then he still spends every night at the bar. Which is not conducive to being in recovery. And I understand it might have been like too much of a leap for Concerned Dave to have to go in because he made this entire thing by himself. And Shane originally, I found out, wasn't a romanceable character. That was an update where he added one of the guys who was already in the game and one of the girls already in the game in as romanceable characters, and Shane was the guy.
Who was the girl? Emily?
Emily.
Another thing is that Clint the blacksmith has a crush on Emily as well.
How do you feel about this? Because I've seen a lot of different takes on it, and I have my own, but I haven't shared it yet. So
okay, well, no, you're the guest on my podcast. So what's your take on that whole thing?
I don't know. I really like Clint. I think he's like a nice representation of a guy who is just like doing his thing and is like too nervous to make a move on the girl that he likes. I think what makes it weird is that Emily is a romanceable character and Clint isn't, because right. I just told you Emily was a late ad as a romanceable, so her story wasn't supposed to include like looking for a suitor. It was just like right. Clint had a crush on her. And I think in that context, it works a lot more. But because she's romanceable, it makes her seem younger, right? And right. Clint seems like this old creep now. But I don't think that's what it is. I think it's just like, it's cute and he has a crush on her.
Yeah, I was going to have very similar. Basically, Concerned Ape, let us date Clint now. I think that's the solution.
Yeah, I also would date Clint. His little thumbnail is hot. So that's what I have to say.
He's got to be strong, right? Like, he's like a blacksmith.
He's strong. He lives away from the rest of the town, so it's a little bit separated. He has a business that is thriving.
It closes at 4, so he has a lot of time.
Yeah, and he likes to interact with other people. He's an introvert, but he likes to socialize because he's always at the bar with Willie. And Willie is another great character.
I would probably also date Willie.
I would date all of them, except for Lewis. He's an asshole.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second.
Welcome to the deep dive.
So it turns out that Lewis is having like a secret romance with Barney, but he doesn't want anyone in the town to know because he's the mayor. Which like
kind of makes sense, but is also terrible.
I don't know if it makes sense. I've never been like, I was gonna be like, nobody's ever been like politicians can't date, but that they absolutely have been.
But in Pelican Town,
there's like a series of cutscenes about their relationship, situationship.
You catch them hooking up in a bush, Arielle. Yeah. I've seen people upset about they're like, if I had to hook up with my hookup in a bush, he'd be gone. I'm like, that's kind of hot though.
I once accidentally walked in on 2 people hooking up in a bush in real life. But
I thought you were gonna say I accidentally hooked up in a bush once. And I'm like, okay, I accidentally hooked up in a park once.
No, all of my
bush. You know when you're young and you don't have back problems and you can do it anywhere.
Call us West. Anyway, I don't know how we're supposed to resolve it. It just sort of like ends as like a plot line. Like they ask you to keep it a secret, and then like whatever you decide, it just like never comes up again until you like see them hooking up in a bush together. And I just feel like I wanted to facilitate either them coming out as like a public couple or them ending a toxic relationship.
Do you have full hearts with both of them?
I have at certain points. Yeah. Yeah, but
I've never seen all of their cutscenes, so
okay. I believe I have. I've just moved back onto Steam, so yeah, we'll see. Pray for my ASW.
Change it to something else. Put it on, I don't know, KLI. I don't know. Who knows?
I'll for now it seems okay. It is something I'm worried about. The other thing about Lewis, in secret notes of what looks like a younger Marnie with like maybe a younger Jazz or like a younger kid.
Yeah.
And I have
no idea what that is.
Okay. My theory is that because she's like supposed to be like Shane's aunt, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So my theory is that she's actually his mother.
I need you to say more about it.
Again, maybe I'm off base. It's also been a while since I've looked at secret notes. I wasn't a huge fan of the secret. Anyway, at one point you chase a shadow creature into a bush again.
And again.
Yeah, again. And then
lots of things happen in bushes here.
Get a magnifying glass, and when you have the magnifying glass, occasionally you'll get secret notes when you're fighting or when
you see 3 little things poking out of the ground.
Yeah, or sometimes when you chop hardwood, which I don't understand the mechanism. I don't know if it still happens, but when secret notes first happened, sometimes you chop hardwood and secret notes would come out, and that
maybe they're stuck inside the thing.
You're stuck.
Someone hid them inside a tree.
Oh, okay. You know what? You've convinced me.
Arielle.
Also, the hardwood regenerates every day, so I don't know why I'm. What
It's
is
true.
going on here?
It
Anyway,
grows back overnight at the secret woods. So
yeah, who knows? There's magic. You kill ghosts anyway. But there's a picture of Marnie as like a younger person. I'm gonna look up the picture because now I'm worried I'm describing it wrong.
no,
Okay?
I can see it. It's like they're in a barn. They're surrounded by animals. It's like a younger Marnie and what looks like a younger Jazz. But I'm just like confused where you think that means she's Shane's mom. I thought you were gonna say it meant she was Jazz's mom.
Yeah, I think that is what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it is definitely Jazz. So for a second, I thought it meant that she was maybe secretly Jazz's mom, which also made me think that maybe it meant that Lewis is secretly Jazz's father.
Yeah, I'm a little bit upset. I thought that we would get more cutscenes with like the kids and stuff, but you never do.
Yeah, because there are only 2 children in the town.
Yeah. But yeah, so my love interests. I always end up going back to Shane because he's the most like the people I end up dating in real life. But the first person I ever married was Sebastian for obvious reasons.
He's also sort of similar.
Yeah,
You like
Sebastian's
the bad boy.
He is the bad boy, but like he doesn't do anything bad. He like plays D&D and like rides a motorcycle and just like keeps to himself. You know, he's an introvert. Like
He has like a programming job, but we're like, ooh.
yeah. But at first when I first started playing the game, I thought it was going to be Elliot, but Elliot is the worst. So
Elliot was my first husband, and I agree. I don't like
his cutscenes. I think when he lost me was when he takes you on a date to the saloon, and he like treats Gus, the bartender, like absolute shit. He's just like, barkeep, get 2 beers for me and this woman. And I'm like, this is the worst. I've been on this date before. I hate this person. I'm never going to speak to you ever again for the rest of my life.
So Elliot
with long hair, and he lives on the beach by himself.
Yes.
Does he have a permit for that house on the beach? We don't know. We'll never know.
We'll never know. Also, he like ran away to Pelican Town. Like maybe he has like a family. Who knows?
He's supposed to be the male version of Leah, but Leah is much more compelling of a character.
They do not. I mean, like they're both artsy, but
yeah. But Leah's backstory is she was in an abusive relationship, and that's why she ran away to Pelican Town. And at one point, you get to hear her on the phone being like, "I'm never coming back to you," and it's great. It's a great plot arc. But Elliot is just like, "I'm on the beach." But trying to manifest my book.
Also, you have to tell him what genre to
write it. I wasn't going to mention that, but I was thinking it, so thank you for everything. I didn't want to call him out on the spot, but thanks, Arielle.
Yeah, so Leah, I often date Leah because she likes, so it's not just that you give the people gifts, you have to give them gifts that they like. And some of the stuff Leia likes is pretty easy to obtain. Like she likes all of the foraged items, basically. When I tried to give Vincent bug meat and he hated it, and I was like, Vincent would absolutely love bug meat.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sometimes it's crazy the gifts that they like Vincent only likes pink seashells and grapes. And I'm like, this kind of makes sense from a kid's perspective, but why? Why doesn't he like purple seashells? Because he hates purple seashells. It's crazy. It's stupid.
Also,
and Haley likes clams, but she doesn't like gems from the mines. Dumb.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it makes, like, I understand why Penny doesn't like alcohol.
Right.
But Haley is interesting.
I don't like Haley, and I've never gotten to like a dating point with her because her gift preferences are so high maintenance. But I have like seen her later cutscenes, and they're nice. Like, it's cute. I could see why someone would like her. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you marry, because they're not very helpful, and they lose all their personality once they live with you.
Yeah, this is the thing. It kind of seems, even though you can date men and women and they are all romanceable, like regardless of gender. And I think
You end up in a very heteronormative
Yeah, I mean, like,
relationship.
it's like the person you're marrying is like a wife,
Right.
like because you can also have children,
They're the house person.
and like you don't have to do anything for your children. So like,
Yeah.
and like a couple of times, like your spouse will be like, "Oh, don't worry about the kids. I'll take care of them." And you're just like, this is not very evenly distributed.
Right. Did you know that you can move in with Krobus?
No.
You can't officially marry him, but you guys can move in together. And if you go down the JoJo route, you can have a movie theater, I guess. And you go out on little dates. And he goes in disguise.
So wait, do you have to go down the JoJo route to move in with him, or?
No, but you have to
Okay.
get it to get the movie theater, and that's the only reason he'd leave the farm.
Oh, okay, I get it. So the only way you can go on it, I get it. Yes, that's another thing. It's very Stardew Valley is very anti
Capitalism.
capitalism, but also kind of cities, I think, as
Right.
well. And I think cities are great.
We live in a city normally.
I live in like two. I don't know what I do right now, but cities are great. I think the values people in cities have are far more accepting, and living in a city is actually far better for the environment than the countryside.
Yeah, but small towns are easier to code.
Yes, I understand. And it's a farm sim. I'm not saying, but like,
Right.
what you gonna do? But JoJo is like Coca-Cola mixed with Walmart, mixed with maybe just those two companies.
Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon.
It's like Coca-Cola that looks like a Walmart but has the attitude of Amazon.
Yeah. And one thing that is like a little bit confusing in the game, because there's a JoJo store in the, and one thing that's like a little bit confusing about it is Pierre, who owns the other store in the town, is always like, he's undercutting me on prices, but actually JoJo is more expensive except for sunflower seeds.
I was gonna say except for sunflower seeds.
I'm sorry, I should have let you say.
It's okay.
But in the beginning, you have to collect certain items for these magical creatures called Junimos. I don't know if I've ever said that word out loud before.
I think it's Junimos is the accepted in the community's phrasing, but like maybe we're all wrong.
Okay,
I don't know. Eric, Concerned Ape, if you're listening, let us know how you say that word.
Also, do we know, is Concerned Ape single?
I don't know, but I've been watching videos with him and like he seems nice. He's a nice guy.
I mean, let us know if you'd like us to items.
What you're obsessed with. What is Concerned Ape obsessed with? What's your hyperfixation, Eric?
But also, like,
what you would like to date us?
Like,
are you non-monogamous? Is that why everyone can date everyone?
I think only Sebastian, if you're a man and you're dating Sebastian, he like mentions like, oh, I've never felt this way about a man. But other than that, everybody is just very
maybe happily. He says that if you're a girl too. Like if you're a girl dating him, maybe he says I never felt this way about a girl. Because they don't, some of them, a lot of the like NPC talk is non-gendered. Depending on which gender you choose, some of it is like Willie will say like a girl after my own heart, but like does he say that if you're a man too? Like a man after my own heart? I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look.
Interesting. And I hadn't thought about this. But anyway, so you can either choose to just pay money to get certain things accomplished as part of the game, and that's the evil JoJo route, but apparently you get a movie theater out of it. So now I'm kind of curious.
I mean, it's 500,000 gold for the movie theater, so like it's not a quick thing.
No, but you know,
it is an additional thing that I didn't know existed because I've never gone that route.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like it's the bad route. So how do you feel about the dungeon element of the game?
Like the caves?
Yes.
I don't know. I was never a big fan of the caves. And then, like I said, I've gotten very into like watching the streamers on YouTube and everything, and like got more of why the caves can be important to you. So I've gotten a lot better at like the normal caves. I'm still terrible at the skull cavern. I cannot get past the second level without staircases, but I know there's stuff in there that you need. So you have to be like kind of good at fighting the monsters, and I'm not, and I don't know how to improve.
Yeah. I've noticed like on the computer, it's like hard. I think that's probably my favorite part, but it is the skull caves get a lot easier if you get a ring that you can really earn by killing monsters that are in the skull cave.
It's a cycle. It's like you can get a job, but you need experience to get a job, but you need a job to get experience. I hate it.
I think it's cultural commentary, but bombs are also, I think that's my one tip for the skull caverns. Lots and lots of bombs. You know what we haven't talked about at all? Farming.
That's true. I don't like farming.
What?
I don't like farming. I don't care for it.
It is the most monotonous part of the game, for sure.
Yeah, it's the thing that moves your plot forward the least, but it is very lucrative if you do it correctly. So I'm learning that.
And do you farming includes, of course, the planting and also the
crops and raising animals.
Animal husbandry. Have you ever had a dinosaur?
I haven't had a dinosaur yet. That's why I have to do the skull caverns.
Sure, that is helpful.
And an ostrich. I haven't had an ostrich yet either.
I didn't even know you could get an ostrich.
It was in the latest update.
Until recently, I was back on iOS, and I don't think the latest update.
Well, if you go with a Steam, it doesn't. That's why you can co-op on Steam and you can't on iOS.
But no, I'm excited. Is that related to is it called Gorilla Island?
It's called Ginger Island.
I've never been.
And there's a new character in Ginger Island that we haven't met yet. So
how do we feel about Sandy?
I love Sandy. I wish that she was a marryable character, but I also understand why she's not, because she can't come live with you because she's the only person who exists in the desert.
She is like,
she's also the least built out character, but you can't get hearts with her.
I will say she's not the only one who lives in the desert, but.
Well, I know.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
I know, but she's the only one I would want to marry in the desert. And she's the only one
sure. Everybody else.
That little shop in the desert.
Yeah, no.
He is a store owner. It's the same reason you can't marry like Pierre.
Yeah, well, Pierre is also married. That is like a very weird cutscene. Have you gone to that cutscene?
I need you to say more things.
When you discover Pierre's porn stash?
Yeah.
Okay. It's
all the end all be all of it is that all the marriages, I think that Conservative might actually be anti-marriage. Because all of the marriages that exist in this game are awful except for Evelyn and George. Wait, we need to talk about George.
Okay, we do need to talk about George.
How do you feel about George? Yes, that's right, listener. I've taken over the podcast. I'm making Arielle answer questions.
Well, I've already been talking so much now, but I think George, again, you learn from a cutscene later that he's in a wheelchair, and I think that's important representation, but also, is it because he's also like
a grouch? Are you trying to find a nice way to say he's a grouch?
And also old.
But then they explain it. The problem is that he's so grouchy up front that a lot of people will play it and be like, I don't like this person. Why would I become their friend?
Right.
But then as you go on, there's a cutscene that explains that he's not in a wheelchair because he's old. He's in a wheelchair because he was in an accident a long time ago. That whole family, though, this playthrough, I found out more about them than I ever knew about them. So I'm like,
because their grandson, Evelyn and George's grandson, is Alex. Why don't you do you know the backstory behind Alex? Why?
Yeah, because like Alex is also one of my least favorite characters superficially. When you meet him, he seems like the jock, the bro, the one who's like always working out, always wants to play football, kind of says some misogynistic things up front. But then you find out that like he lives with his grandparents because his mom passed away and his dad was a deadbeat. So like there's a lot underneath the surface of that family where if you take the time to get to know them and like they trust you enough to share it with you, then they like let you in on it. And it's just like very nice about like how you never know what someone's going through until you take the time to find out.
Yeah, there are sort of couples that you're like breaking up. We've talked about how like Shane and Emily are kind of a couple, but
yeah, but they're only a couple
at the flower dance.
And then like if you don't marry Emily, she ends up with Clint, right? I have no idea. I've never gotten that far. I was asking you like you might know.
But yeah.
But there are like other couples where it's implied, but I don't know if anyone ever and actually ends up together, because once you marry someone, you can always divorce them and marry someone else. You know what I'm saying?
I had a playthrough where I was named Belinda, as in Belinda of Blinked Farm, I believe it was. It was my dad wrote a porno themed, and she just dated everybody. That was she did.
Good job.
So Leia and Elliot are sort of like supposed to be kind of like a couple.
They're coded to be together, yeah.
Yeah, and like they're both artsy.
Abigail and Sebastian and Sam and who's Sam's?
Penny.
Because they both have golden retriever energy.
I'm currently married to Sam, and I'm really into the golden retriever energy. Oh, occasionally, if you do get married, occasionally they will water your plants for you, and that is very nice.
Right. There's a like very funny TikTok where it's like have you seen the guy who cosplays as Harvey?
No.
His name is Shawnee Dew. I'll send it to you. But
okay.
Shout out Shawnee Dew. He's like watering plants, and he's like it's to the Reba.
Right, yeah. The single
when
mom.
You get up early to water your spouse's plants to help them out on their farm, and you water the plants that have already been watered by the sprinkler.
That is one, because like at a certain point I'll go full sprinkler, and then you're like, what's the point of even being married if I have all this?
Yeah, I'm doing my playthrough currently on the beach farm where you can't use sprinklers outside, so I'm fully living off of my strawberries that are growing in the greenhouse.
There is like a little patch of land you can use sprinklers on.
I know, but it's so far away from my house that's more annoying to fix there.
Yeah, I love the strawberries though. They are good.
Yeah.
Big strawberry fan. And we haven't talked about fishing at all. Do we care about the fishing?
I'm very good at fishing and I enjoy it. So it's funny to me when people don't, but
I think I enjoy it, but I don't really have that much to say about it. Exactly.
Right, I don't have a lot to say about it. It's a little bit confusing to me because I don't like to look things up a lot. So I'll sometimes be like, why can't I get this fish? But it's like the wrong season or the wrong time of day. And I'm like, well, so many rules.
Yeah, you'll spend like, I think I spent like 3 years in game, not like in the world, being like, why can't I ever get, it's either a squid or an octopus, it's one of them, but like it's because you can only catch it in the morning, and I was always going like after I farmed.
Yeah.
So I think it probably is on like there's a television show sort of within the game.
Living on the land.
Yes. And it will say, but like
it'll give you little tips, and it sometimes on one of the episodes it's like, are you looking for a specific fish? This is when the season you can get it, the time of day.
A lot of times it's like repetitive. I very rarely watch now.
I saw someone who put the TV right next to their bed, so like it's the easiest thing to do when you get right out of bed to watch all the stuff at once.
That is smart.
It's a good hack. Also, I didn't know you could buy a calendar for your room from Robin, so that's been life-changing too.
Yeah, that's also really helpful because people really like gifts on their birthday.
Right, and I'll check the calendar right before I go to bed so I know if there's an event or something the next day. It's great.
Look at all of your time management.
I mean, the rest of the day, it's so funny because I'll watch these playthroughs and they'll have a plan for the whole day. And I'm just like walking around the map being like, what else did I have to do? So it's like my real life.
What I do a lot is, because I check luck a lot.
Yeah.
And then like if it's like neutral, I'll fish. If it's bad, I'll like give gifts to people. And if it's good, that's when I go to the dungeon. Although right now,
I like how you call it the dungeon consistently. Not the mines, not the caverns, the dungeon.
I mean, it's definitely not a dungeon like at all, which is it's so weird. It's a series of caves.
Right.
Although right now I'm trying to get ectoplasm.
Don't know how to get it. They say it's when you like murder ghosts, but I've never gotten it.
I think it's just like you murder ghosts and you have to murder, like it's a chance thing. So not
every but I've never gotten it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how many ghosts do I have to murder to get 10 ectoplasm? I'm really mad because I have 2 farms right now because I really wanted to do the beach farm, but I just finished the challenge on my one farm where I did the 100 pumpkins. And then Lewis gives you a new shipment box, like a mini one that you can put anywhere. And I put it right outside of the cave, right outside of the mines. And then I got into my new farm and I'm like, I want that so bad on this farm. And I got all the way to fall. And they came up with the community board and they were like, oh, this is for bigger shipments. And I just assumed that the same challenges would be given in the same order on my new farm. So I bought 100 pumpkins and I planted them, and then I never got that challenge.
Oh no.
Dumb. I'm so dumb.
No, you're not dumb. I like that new update though, because that's also not on the iOS, the community board. I like a lot of those. Yeah, because I was confused. I was like, what happens if you buy 100 pumpkins? But I haven't had that. I think I had 100 cauliflowers actually. Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a lot about Stardew Valley. It's a great game. I think we both agree with that. What do we think it says about you or us or anyone that game is so appealing?
It's a great question, Arielle.
Yeah.
It's just like it's very wholesome. Like you get to live a life like I'm never gonna be a farmer. Never gonna be a farmer, never gonna be a miner. And you get to have all these little wholesome experiences with people who end up thinking like you're the best farmer they've ever met, even though you've only been in town for 2 days, you know? So for me, it's just like something to focus on and like quiet my mind a little bit. Because when I'm in game, I'm trying to think about how to describe it. It's like I could turn my mind off and like be in the Harvest Moon game instead of when I'm not in game and I'm like, let me think about 100 things that I've been anxious about today. 100 things I'll be anxious about tomorrow that haven't happened yet.
Yeah, for sure.
How about you?
There's that. I think it's kind of nice to like live in a world where like it's more clear like exactly what I mean, because it's the game, so there are like rules, so like what you put in you like will get out. And I'm not even like it's weird because like I think we don't live in a system where that works.
Yeah.
But realistically, I benefit a lot from the system being unfair. So it's weird that I am so I get so much out of living in a world that is fair over a world that's unfair in my advantage, but I do.
I mean, everyone has a happy ending except for Marnie, so justice for Marnie.
Justice for Marnie.
Ooh, in the next update, she should be able to end up with the guy who runs the adventure club.
Oh, interesting.
Or Clint.
That is her or Willie, that's also his
Willie would be a good choice.
Yeah. Also like fully like processed this before, but I think there is some rivalry between Lewis and Willie.
Say more about that.
Okay, so it's based on 2 cutscenes, both of them at festivals, because there are also holidays in this island. If you don't play this game and you've been listening this far, thank you so much. But there's in the Winter Festival, there's like a thing where Lewis is like, the smell is so gross. And then the Harvest Festival, if you talk to Willie is like, I didn't get a good score. I think Lewis doesn't like fish. So maybe it's less that there's a rivalry between Willie and
just
Lewis.
that Lewis is like rude. Lewis is rude. He's mean. He is a okay mayor. I don't think he does anything great for the town, but he is a bad boyfriend and he's mean to people he doesn't understand. Thank you.
That is true. Yeah.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Gus is the best person in the entire game. He's nice to Linus. He's nice to everybody. He creates a safe space for everyone to go, even alcoholics like Shane. Thank you.
Yeah, Gus is great. We haven't talked about Linus at all. I like Linus a lot.
Yes. Linus is so sweet, and he's just living his life, and he doesn't have any shame about it.
He lives in a lean-to?
He lives in a little tent up near the mines.
Yeah, in the mountains, and he makes it very clear that he like doesn't
want to live
leave.
in a house. He likes living off the grid. But everyone in town, apparently before we got there, where it was mean to him. He said people used to knock his house down.
Yeah. There's also a war happening. We haven't talked about that.
Right. Well, it's because it's not gone into very much. There's a war happening, and then a new character comes home in year 2 who has PTSD, and like one of his cutscenes is his wife is making him popcorn, and it like triggers him because one of the popcorns like blows up in the microwave or something.
Right.
And it's like interesting because it's not something you would think would be included in a little game like Stardew Valley.
Right.
But it's also like you never learn anything more about the war, and I don't know what the end of his story arc is because I haven't made it there yet. So or if there is an end to it, because I kind of want to see it resolved, but
also sometimes things don't get resolved in life.
That's true.
And sometimes podcasts kind of end with ambiguity. We had some technical difficulties. I had some technical difficulties, so I wasn't able to say a formal goodbye to Kathryn or ask her to plug anything. So just follow her on Instagram and TikTok at Kathryn Fabbroni. That's all one word. Kathryn is spelled Kathryn. It's also linked in the show notes.